Welcome to the First Bell Boxing Show, hosted by me, Johnny Nelson, and my old sparring partner, Spencer Oliver.
36 minutes of unfiltered boxing debate.
Expect untamed views and wild predictions.
Analysis, preview, and a lot of laughs along the way.
Follow, like, subscribe now, so you don't miss out. Hello and welcome to our new show, myself and Spencer Oliver, The First Bell, that's what it's called. 36 minutes of unadulterated boxing. So the clock started now, it's the first round, we're on it. We're going to talk everything that's been going on in boxing, what's happening in boxing, and what's going to happen in boxing. Juicy stuff today. Spencer, you just come from next door. It was the Anthony Joshua press conference. Give me some inside scoop.
Well, listen, we all know what the situation was with Dillain Whyte, finding there's an adverse finding. He's failed the drugs test.
Do we know what it is yet?
But listen, that's what I'm saying. So what I'm going to say, Johnny, is I'm disappointed, majorly disappointed. I can't say any more than that because we don't know what it is. We don't know what the drug was. We don't know what it was. But all we know is there was an adverse finding.
He's appealing.
And Dillain Whyte is out.
Is he appealing?
I don't know what he's doing right now. All I know is that he's out. Matchroom found out about this Saturday morning. Now, what Matchroom have done is they've learned from their mistakes. With the Conor Benn situation and the mess that was, the PR disaster that was surrounding all that, you know, whether the fight was going to be on, whether it was going to be off. Eddie admitted himself, you know, we made a lot of mistakes in that. And that's why we decided, as soon as this come up, and they first heard about this on a Saturday, early hours Saturday morning, they pulled the fight straight away. Which is great, you know. That's a good thing, you know. It's good news that they pulled that fight.
So the show goes on.
The show goes on.
In steps.
In steps, Robert Helenius. So and now people are going to be going, well, how Robert Helenius? Derek Chisora was on the bill. He was boxing Gerald Washington. They were number one, number two people. They were the front runners. You know, you had Dempsey McKean on there. He's boxing Philip Hergovich, IBF mandatory challenger.
I actually thought, why not Hergovich? But then you've got to train specifically for Hergovich.
Well, listen, I'll tell you why not Hergovich. Because Hergovich is mandatory challenger. We've got for the IBF. So we've got Daniel Dubois boxing Alexander Usyk out in Poland, August the 26th.
Yep. Tournament in Saudi.
Tournament, yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying is Philip's in that position. So you go, why would I risk that? Putting it on the line against Anthony Joshua with such short notice. So I'm thinking, right, Washington fits the bill. He's trained by Deontay Wilder's trainer. You know, so it sort of made sense.
So you know,
it sort of made sense. And then I'm thinking, well, if not, Derek Chisora, they're old gym mates, they're old sparring partners. You know what I mean? But we know War Chisora will come and he'll give it a go. And he loves a pound note.
Yeah, but I heard that and I thought, I know these two are mates. I know most camps, every time AJ's fighting, you know, Derek's in the dressing room with these two are tied. So it wasn't a realistic option in my head unless these guys could separate personal and business.
Do you know what it is? You know Derek loves a little bit of mullah, doesn't he? He loves the old pound note. Do you know what I mean? He loves the old pound note. And I think Derek put his name in the frame for this. He said, listen, I'll fight, but he obviously might have outpriced himself, whatever. So what happened because Robert Helenius, the situation with him was that I was speaking to the Matchroom team and they were saying we always had Helenius, he was going to be the original opponent. We was always thinking about maybe him. Anyway, Helenius went and boxed. He got lined out, he got sparks in the round by Deontay Wilder and people going, well, Helenius, 39 years of age. But what we know about Helenius is he takes the fight to you. He wants to have a fight. He done that against Wilder, and that's why he got sparked. Because he took it to him, he pushed him, he tried to bully him, and got caught. It happens, heavyweight boxing.
These two are familiar, though. You know, AJ and Helenius, they sparred together. So again, are we in danger of AJ being complacent? Remember, the last standing he got was what? Ruiz. And so on. That was the last thing anybody expected. Is there a danger or has he learned his lesson? You know him well. You're tight. You're the only person he's letting interview him from Talk Sport at the moment. So you tell me that inside track.
I'm glad you asked me the question because I've just, 20 minutes ago, thrown that question to AJ and said to him, listen, Josh, you know, this could be history repeating itself. I said, because when you was meant to be boxing Baby Miller, he failed the drugs tests. Then in come Andy Ruiz, you go over to New York, and boom, we look at what happened. He said to me, you know what, Spence, I've been thinking about that. You know, I've been thinking about it, and I've been trying to get that out of my head. And I said, listen, you've got to delete that. I said, you're a former world silver medalist, an Olympic gold medalist, two-time world champion. I said, you've got to adapt. I said, that's what it is, adaptability in his game, you're right. He goes, and I recognise from the mistakes I made there, I said, listen, Forget about now Dillain Whyte. That's gone. You know, that short guy that looks for them big hooks, shoulder rolls. You're boxing a tall, lanky guy now that likes to throw right hands through the middle.
You know, as an ex-fighter, we all know if you the standings are the dangerous ones.
Absolutely.
9 times out of 10 you get a gimmick, but that one time somebody can do an Andy Ruiz. So do you think AJ's learned from that? The way he talks, the way he carried himself, the way he's presented himself at the presser, do you see? I see a maturity.
Yeah, absolutely. And he told me that. So he said, "Listen, I know I know the mistakes. You know, I won't make the mistakes again. I know what I've got to do. Forget what Dillain Whyte." He said, like, disappointed with him. You know, he was getting that opportunity, twilight of his career. That's gone now. He's gone. He's out of the picture. Now I'm focusing on Helenius. Helenius is sitting there and he goes, "I've had the fight, and the phone rings." He goes, "The phone rings after the fight in the dressing room. Do you fancy Anthony?"
So let's back up. So he's boxed. He's boxed.
He's just boxed.
He's gone back to the dressing room.
Yeah.
In the dressing room after he's just boxed, and he gets the call. He gets the shout.
So he gets sparked by Deontay Wilder, right? People think career over, 39 years of age. He comes back. He's boxing in a castle in Finland Saturday night. Small hall, just trying to get, rebuild a little bit of confidence, get back on the winning track. All of a sudden, in the dressing room, yes, you heard it, phone goes. "Do you fancy the job against Anthony Joshua? Dillain Whyte's failed a drug test." This is how he goes.
So
this is how he goes. "Let me think about this." "Yes, please." And that was literally it, right? And he said, like, what an opportunity. He goes, "At this stage of my career, and I do that, and I know Anthony Joshua, we've sparred together." He said, "And I'm quietly confident, I know that I'll take the fight to him." But what it does with Joshua is, I said to AJ, I went, "Listen, mate, he's a perfect opponent." I said, "Because he will come at you." I said, "And you'll have to let your hands go. And if you don't, we know where you're at."
Good preparation for whatever happens in Saudi.
Good preparation for Deontay Wilder, who Eddie tells us is a done deal. They've done it. The deal is signed. We're looking at January time, out in Saudi Arabia with skills challenge. So that fight will happen. So like AJ needs this victory.
So it might be a stupid question, but what's your shout? What's your verdict? What's your prediction on that one?
What on
AJ
versus
Hrgovic?
Helenius.
Helenius.
AJ versus Helenius. Yeah, I think that AJ's going to go out there and spark him out. I think AJ's going to go out there. He knows, like, I'm looking in his eyes, Johnny. Look, we know each other, like that. And I'm going to him, "Mate, you know what you're doing, don't you? You know what you got to do." And he's looking me back and he goes, "Yeah, I know exactly what I've got to do." So you ain't got to go out there and throw a jab, throw a right hand, throw a 1-2 hook. I went, "Nah, mate, you got to go out there."
Give it what he's
let
got.
You go. Yeah, but it's got to be not reckless like you was in the early days when you boxed Dillain before. I said it's got to be educated pressure. You've got that experience now. So you go out there, let your hands go, but let them go at the right time. You know what I mean? Set the traps and let the shots go. This geezer's tall. He stands in front of you. He's going to be looking to knock you out with the right hand because he fancies it. And there you can get it off. So listen, it's good. But let's touch on this Dillain Whyte situation, where he's failed with his test. So I want to get into this because Derek Chisora, who's on the undercard against Gerald Washington.
I'm really surprised. If I'm honest, I'm really surprised with this Dillain Whyte situation, and that's why I just thought it's hard to have judgment and comment about it because we've got to learn our lessons from the kind of Benn situations happened in the past. Let's find out what the situation is first before everybody jump into playing judge and jury.
But what I liked about Derek Chisora, who, by the way, is normally a clown at press conferences. I'm going to say that, Derek, you're a clown at press conferences.
Derek, I didn't say that, man.
I said it.
You were dressed like one. You were dressed like one, but I didn't say that. He said it. I'm just saying.
He was dressed in Five Guys gear today at the thing, so he's getting sponsored by Five Guys. The geezer would do anything.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, the geezer would do anything.
I thought he had bad colour choice.
Nah,
that was
man.
it.
You thought that he was supporting Croatia in the football or something, didn't you? No, it's not. It's Five Guys, mate. He had the Five Guys sandals on. It was like, it was just like really anyway, just really strange, but that's what Derek does. But Derek, for the first time I think I've ever heard him in this press conference, he's chatting, he said, "Eddie, let me stop you there a minute, mate. Before we talk about my fight and Washington and how this fight was made and everything else, I want to talk about this situation with Dillain Whyte." He said, when someone's found with an adverse finding, if it is what we think it is, and if it is that, and if it's anything to do with performance-enhancing drugs or anything to do with, helping a fighter in any sort of way, 10-year ban. Oh. No, don't go for the, we get a month. He said, because the reason everyone's doing it, he said, is because they're getting this. He said, what you've got to remember is, these people have got families at home. He said, like, when I'm fighting someone, I'm 20 years now, I've been fighting, never touched a drug in my life. In my life, he said, this is classic. He said, apart from when I'm in Ibiza and I'm partying, and when he said this live in the press conference. He goes, apart from when I'm in Ibiza, he said, but I'm talking about performance-enhancing drugs. It was hilarious, right? He goes, it was brilliant. And he goes, but like, he goes, you know, I've got to go home, back home to my kids. I said, and the person I'm fighting's got to go home to their kids. He said, what happens if I take performance-enhancing drugs and something happens and I kill the guy in the ring? He said, I've got to live with that in my conscience. He said, why are these fighters doing it? He said, so not a year ban, not a 2-year ban, 10-year ban. And I interviewed him after. I said, you're right.
And a situation like that is not just a 10-year ban, it's a prison sentence.
Absolutely.
And it's not until something like that happens that maybe the board or whatever will start saying, yo, listen, we've got to draw a line down this. But it's just, I heard he was on form today as well.
Oh, mate.
But he's got to remember, the last man that came out supporting one of the high street food brands,
KFC,
KFC, and what happened? So I'm just saying, Derek, be careful, man, be careful.
Well, listen, I've got to tell you. So I says to him, like, listen, how did this fight come across? Like I said, it was really weird. I said, when this fight was put on the bill, I thought, Eddie's heard about this situation. They put you on the bill, and Gerald Washington, so that one of you two can box AJ. And it would say, oh, but they're already on the bill, they're fit, so that it didn't look really bad. I said, so how did this come about? And he says to me, I'll tell you how it come about. He said, I'm there, Gerald Washington's in America, he's fishing on his boat, I give Gerald a ring. And I said to him, Gerald, do you fancy a fight? I want to fight on the undercard of the AJ fight. And Gerald went, are you being serious? He said, because I know him. He said, no, I want to support him and his family and give them money. He said, so we'll have a good dust up. Nice. And he said, you know, I recognise where he's at. He said, do you want to fight? And Gerald said, I'd love that fight. He said, no problem. And he said, Eddie, but what, you haven't told anyone, have you, Eddie? You have not told anyone what this is. And Eddie's sitting there like, and he's going, yeah, that Prince Khalid paid for this fight, didn't he? He said, so skills challenge, Prince Khalid, and what's going on down there? So he said, they paid for this fight to be on this bill. And put it on this bill.
Paid both opponents?
Paid Derek and his opponent.
You're joking.
Yeah. And that's
what was Eddie's reaction to that?
Yeah, you're right, actually, he did, yeah.
So did Eddie at all consider Derek as a possible opponent for AJ?
I think that Derek said that he put his name in the hat.
Ring,
he threw his name in the hat. But I think that from the Matchroom point of view and from the AJ rebuilding and rehabilitation program, really, if you like, and the rebuilding program, they were looking for the right opponent. But they didn't. Matchroom and the team didn't want Dillain Whyte. AJ wanted that, and I think AJ wants to test himself, see where he's at, see if he's positioned right, and see if if he's eligible to be fighting these top guys. And Dillain Whyte would have brought the best out in him. So they said, look, Robert Helenius is a great guy for stylistically, so it makes sense, like for styles and everything else, that this is the good fight for AJ to rebuild that confidence a little bit. So I understand it, but yes, the answer to your question was both them guys' names were in the hat.
And so, what's your call? What's your shout on Derek's fight? What's your prediction?
On Derek's fight? I think it's going to be. I think it's quite an exciting fight, actually. Gerald Washington's not that bad. I mean, he's lost 3 of his last 4, as you're saying.
I think both fighters are at a certain stage in their career where if they walked away now, you'd say, you know what, great stuff. But
I think Derek wins inside 6.
Yeah.
I think he can. Yeah, I think he gets him, because that's where Derek's explosive.
How fit was fit for him then? You know, when he got the call out for the fight, Derek's opponent.
Great question, because I don't know that. Yeah. Perhaps that's why Derek dropped it. Listen, he's out fishing, mate. He went in the gym. You know what I mean? He went in the gym mixing it up. He was out on a boat fishing. So who knows? He looks in great shape.
Yeah, he does.
And he talks a talk, but then that's what Americans do. You know what I mean? So you can't really read too much into that because they're great talkers. They've got the gift of the gab. And but yeah, look, Derek looks in great shape. He looks in great shape, and I think he's just grateful for this opportunity. And also we've got Filip Hrgovic on there versus Dempsey McKean, who's unbeaten 22. It's a good show, to be fair. I said to Eddie, respect where respect's due, mate, because
not on pay-per-view, so
taking the pay-per-view element away, and you're giving us this show. I said, but actually on Saturday morning, this show was dead and buried in the water. I said, you've revived it and you've got it to where it is. Sign of a great promoter. Well done, mate. Respect for that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's leave the heavyweights alone. Let's just step back a little bit, do a bit of a moonwalk, and we talk Crawford, Crawford and Spence.
Yeah.
What did you think of that?
Like honestly, when people were talking about that performance, it was going into that fight. We lent. I think you did as well. Lent towards Crawford.
Yeah.
Lent towards Crawford.
But it was a thin
divide.
line.
It was a divide, mate. It was like you could see many ways out Errol Spence would win this fight. You know, because of the size and because of the constant pressure, training with Derek James as well, who was in the camp. I'll tell you a little bit about AJ said about that actually as well, because he's in that camp, isn't he? I said, what sort of effect did it have on that camp? in there and all that. He said, well, listen, we was bitterly disappointed, but we recognised the greatness of Terence Crawford. And that's basically what it was. It was greatness. Like, we're not talking about modern era greats. I'm talking about all-time greats. You know, when you looked at what he done there and the ease that he done it, Errol Spence, because straight away, why do people do this, Johnny? You'll be able to answer this one. Why do people go straight away, like Crawford eases for it, don't even go out of second gear, straight away? This first thought is, oh, Errol Spence weren't right, he don't look good, Errol Spence was weight drained.
I was going to say, what do you buy into that? The conspiracy theories that spread like wildfire after that. Is it because Crawford was so good, he made Spence a three belt holder look so bad? Or people just couldn't accept the result. They couldn't accept the skill of Crawford.
Absolutely, that's exactly what it is. And do you know when they accept it, and I think you'll agree with me on this one, not now, not in 5 years, in 15 years, 20 years down the road, you look back and you go, like we do now, Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns, Marvin Hagler, Roberto Duran. At that time, they were great fighters, but this era would have been better than them. Now we look back on them and just go, wow. Legend sport. We'll get that with Crawford. Crawford, for me, is pound for pound #1 fighter in the world right now. But the ease that he done that and the technical skill that he showed, he's an all-time great.
And there is, I gather, there's a rematch close. I'd be very, very surprised if the rematch did happen.
I agree
with the two of them. So now the names they're throwing at Crawford, they're even talking about Canelo. They're even talking, you know, they're trying to really mix it up. And obviously, size makes no difference because Crawford made his skill, his timing, his fight, his patience, everything was spot on. Everything was untouchable. He stayed so calm and cool all the way through. Ridiculous. And made a hard job a really easy one. And so the fans were mad.
He created history, become an undisputed, first male to become undisputed champion at 2 weight divisions. Do you know what I want to see next? I want to see him step up to 154 and box Jamal Charlo for the undisputed super welterweight title. Could you imagine that? A 3-weight undisputed world champion. Come on, mate. Like if that's not modern day greatness, if that's not all-time greatness, and what is?
I gather the gate receipts for something like 23 million or something like that. I don't know if that's fiction, but that's what I'm hearing. Okay, let's move on. Let's back up a bit more of a moonwalk. Conor Benn. What I'm trying to understand what has been said and what hasn't been said. So I was interviewed once after that, and I said, if this is the case and VADA, or you kind of back down, then Conor Benn needs to sue them for defamation of character and loss of earnings.
I heard that actually.
So because remember, this kid's been through hell and high water trying to clear his name. So why have you backed down?
Well, let me tell you where we're at with this whole situation, right? So everybody thinks Conor Benn's been cleared. He's not been cleared. I must make this clear that he hasn't been cleared.
But nobody said that.
No,
that's what I'm saying.
No, because of Matchroom doing their video and putting it out there and saying Conor's been cleared, and Eddie was saying, it was even saying it today actually. What I'm saying is the ban has been lifted, which clears him to apply for a licence to box. But it's now, I think, British Boxing Board of Control and UCAD have got 21 days to appeal this. So this all comes down to jurisdiction, and do they have the jurisdiction? Because if they don't have the jurisdiction, and what I mean by that is the legal right to overturn this or do this.
So back up. So he's been cleared to fight.
No, he's been cleared to apply for the licence to fight.
Why?
But on a technicality.
And what's the technicality?
I don't know what the technicality was, but they basically got the ban lifted because of whatever it was. I don't know what the technicality was, but they lifted the ban anyway. Right? So UCAD now got to appeal that and say, well, listen, you've still not proved your innocence on that, or the British Boxing Board have got to do their job as well. And until they do that, I think that it's still murky waters. So I don't think it's plain and simple at the moment. Listen, we all want it to be over, you know what I mean? Like Conor Benn was one of the best prospects in this country, lovely kid. And what's happened has been an absolute disaster. And I think, even Eddie and the team and everyone recognise that the way it's been dealt with and everything has just been an absolute, disaster.
In reality, the British Boxing Board of Control haven't changed their stance.
Well, I think the ball now is in Boxing Board of Control's court and UCAD's court. I think that Conor, as we stand, he started making progress because they've lifted this ban, so now he can apply for a licence. So I don't know where he's got a licence at the moment. Eddie actually hinted that he's already got a licence somewhere. That might be in the US or something like that.
You see,
but they want him to box in the UK.
That's why I was trying to play devil's advocate and say, well, if they've lifted it, he needs to sue them.
Yeah.
So they need to get their act in order. To say,
Absolutely.
all right, whoa, okay,
Yeah.
we didn't actually
Yeah.
mean that. He needs to sue them.
it's
Defamation
so-
of character and loss
Yeah.
of earnings. That's what you need to push forward unless there's agreement and understanding
Yeah.
that's being made between them. But it was...
It's a complicated situation.
yeah,
Yeah.
I play with words. I play with words.
Yeah, but I think that sometimes, you know, situations like this are good for, you know, what we need moving forward within the sport, because the sport has to, you know, our sport is so slow in catching up with other sports and whatnot. And I think that, like, basically, the jurisdiction of this whole thing is that if Conor Benn, if UK or the British Boxing Board of Control had no jurisdiction over this situation, right, then they're not fit for purpose. And I think that's what we're finding out about this.
Simon Jordan,
That-
your colleague on TalkSport,
Yeah.
he keeps hammering the boxing board, calls them boxing board of no control.
That's right.
And so the boxing board of control have either got to stand firm, stand strong, and say this is the situation, this is what we said. You know, if you go against it, you know, we've not changed our stance. They've got to do that.
They've got to do something, and it's just, I suppose, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
But listen, the good thing for Conor Benn and this situation, 'cause like you say, it's been a fucking nightmare for him. If I'm totally honest,
Yeah.
been an absolute nightmare, and he wants to, you know, he wants to move on with his career.
I've got one for you. I've got one. Okay, that's Conor Benn. So today, or was it yesterday? Richard Riakporhe, I saw him pull himself out of the purse bids. For his world title fight.
Oppenheimer.
Against Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get my head around why, what other options that are there for him. And plus at the closing date, the final day, to say,
closing
I'm out of
hours.
this. You know, so I don't understand. And I know as a fighter, that's what you want. That's your dream. That's you thinking, I'm here. Have you heard anything?
No, I'm glad you asked me the question, because I only saw that today.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. I'm going, what's happened there?
Yeah.
You know, I saw Richard put out a statement saying how disappointed he was with the whole thing. But I really don't know the ins and outs of it. I think we will find that up, and we will pick that up actually, and we'll go in more depth about that, because this is a no hold barred show that we're going to be doing here. You know, we're going to give you some stuff, some juicy stuff. We're not holding back at all.
And we've got some amazing lawyers, so don't try and sue us. I'm lying, man. I'm lying.
Yeah, so I don't know the situation with the Oppenheimer thing, but bitterly disappointed for Riakporhe, who's worked his way into that mandatory position, and I'm sure there's reasons behind it. Okay. And we will find out in the forthcoming days.
So actually, there's got to be options, because you've got Chris Billensmith.
Yeah.
That's a fight that's happened before, could happen again. But Chris Billensmith, I don't know what the situation is in regards to the rematch against Lawrence Okoli.
Yeah.
If it was me, if I was boxer, I'd try and push Lawrence Okoli in the direction of a Bridgeweight, but you're going to pay him a lot of money for him to step away, because that's a fight. You can. Lawrence, in my opinion, didn't get beat. He lost.
Yeah.
There's a difference between being beaten and he lost.
Yeah.
And so if the fight happens again, I think Lawrence Okoli, his style is something. It's something you've got to get used to. We were down in Bournemouth. Bournemouth was mad. It was a great.
Yeah,
so you could see Chris has got an amazing fan base, and you know it's there. So business-wise, you'd probably think, you know what, let's try and, you know, offer Lawrence something in the Bridgeweight division or the heavyweight division.
Makes
because
sense.
if he says, I want this, then he got a problem.
Absolutely. And do you know what? I think if you go back to, when was it? 2019, I think, when Riakporhe and CBS boxed before. Great fight, split decision, really good fight. Riakporhe come out on top then.
Both developed.
They've both developed a lot since then. You know, they've both moved on a lot, and that stylistically is a great fight. Like you say, I think what we found out about Lawrence Okoli on that night was we know that he's awkward and he's rangy, and that's what the people really struggle with. They said they didn't realise how awkward he was. But we found that there was an air of vulnerability about him. That he didn't like it when he was stuck on him. He didn't like the pressure. And with that added crowd and whatnot, because CBS had to come through some moments as well. But as soon as he recognised that he could hurt Okoli, he jumped on him, and Okoli made it very messy and all that. You're right in what you say, Johnny. I'm with you. I think the Bridgeweight moving up, because he's a big guy anyway, and he must struggle to make that weight. Perhaps that's why he was like, you know, when he was getting hit, he was getting shook to the soles of his boots.
And that's what I'm saying. I think we saw CBS have to fight through fire to stay on his feet. We never saw Lawrence in that kind of trouble. So there's the question, there's the rumour about how he is when it comes under pressure in the gym.
Yeah.
So the question is, has he had that acid test to say when the pressure's on, he can fight for it, when he's hit, when he's hurt, when he's still got the fight in his belly? Because Chris showed that.
Yeah.
Showed that about him. The one thing Lawrence has got is punch power.
Yeah.
You know, and he's naturally freakishly strong.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is why at cruiserweight he'll be a handful for anybody if you underestimate him.
But you picked up on a great point there, actually, 'cause just as you were speaking there, I'm thinking, because we don't know the whys, the do's and don'ts of what's happened in this whole situation with Reactball and being built out by Appetite, and it sort of makes sense now. They're under the same banner. It's a great fight. Is that something they're looking towards? And will Lawrence
and it's something they can control?
Up,
that's something they can control. Because remember, Appetite, you know, you can throw purse bids in. You know, he's signed up with Matchroom, I gather, and so there's no control over the direction. But that means somebody wins and somebody loses out your stable, and it would have been probably sweeter if you had two champions in the same weight. It'd been Badu Jack's are also available. I think Badu Jack, even though he's the most shot worn out of all the cruiserweight champions, he's dangerous because he's the wisest.
Yeah.
He's dangerous because he's got more knowledge than everybody else. So even though the guys are younger, fresher than him, and they're naturally bigger than him, you know, one thing you can't buy, borrow, pretend to have is experience.
Sure.
And Badu Jack has that.
Well, he's stuck out there in Saudi, isn't he, with his skill talent. Yeah. So that belt is surrounded by sound castles, mate. Yeah. They want to keep it out there. You know what I mean?
They keep it out there. And so what I'm saying is, if you're Chris Bill Smith, you're Lawrence Colleys, you're Richard Reactpors, they get in with Badu Jack. Badu Jack's I'm talking about. These fighters need to be the fully fledged, finished article. There's no learning on the job with him.
Sure.
You can't go in there and think, oh, I'm just going to practice. You've got to go in there and think, right, I know what I can do. This is what everything's got to turn up. Because Badu Jack, he's just too smart for them.
Sure.
He's not. As I said, he's not the youngest. He's not the fittest. He's more shot worn.
He's the wisest.
But he's too wise.
He's the wisest.
So that is a dangerous fight in its own right, unless those guys think, right, I'm going to jump on him straight away and get
Listen, I want to ask you a question on that, because you've touched on that, and I think this is relevant to you in your career, and you know how wise you become when you got older. You know, when you went and won the world title after your tries before, and you had your ups and downs in your career, a real roller coaster. You get that opportunity against Cole Thompson, no looking back. You win that and then become the longest reigning cruiserweight champion of all time and the longest reigning British world champion of all time. I want to ask you, as you got older, because this will answer the questions about the Badu Jack thing, because you're great on the psychological side. As you got older, what changed in your mind? So when you recognise that you're actually slowing down a little bit with your feet and your legs and everything else, and you've got to become wiser, like Floyd Mayweather did, where he started shoulder rolling a little bit and being more selective. How did you do that transition? Yeah, what changed you? How do you do that? How do you get? Okay. How do you do that?
Well, right now we're in the last quarter of the fight, championship round, so we've not got long left.
Yeah.
And so let's look at it. So in my head, it was about confidence and self-belief. And so once I'd become world champion. There's many champions that are out there that don't actually believe they're the best in the world. So they've got the tag, I'm the world champion, but they don't actually believe they're the best in the world.
Where did you get the confidence from?
So for me, once I won the world title, after all the ups and downs I'd been through, after people I'd boxed and been all over the world, I thought, well, I kind of deserve this spot. Yeah. So I believe I'm the best. It didn't matter if anybody else did. So when I got in there, I went in there with a supreme belief to say, you are not good enough to beat me because you've not walked my path. This is why I went off when AJ lost to Usyk the second time. I said, the problem's not here. The problem's there. It's going to last on. He's got to get his head around thinking, God, I am actually not the best. And so once I became champion, once I knew what I was capable of doing, I didn't think I was. I knew I was capable of doing certain things. I knew I would never lose again.
So when did you get that self-belief? Was it before you won the world title, or was it after you won the world title?
It was before. It was before, because I spent almost 6 years in Germany sparring with the best Olympic gold medalists. You know, these guys have been throwing money on left, right, centre, and I wasn't. I was their sparring partner, but battering them. And I don't just mean one or two. I'm talking Axel Schultz, who boxed George Foreman. I'm talking Henry Mask. I'm talking Torsten May, Rudy May, and these guys were gods over there. And I was like thinking, you're paying me to do this to you. So and it was a no-brainer. And so eventually, all the world champions I was a sparring partner for, I learned so much from them. These guys don't do that. They don't go out there to learn their craft. They're all mollycoddled. They're taken care of. They're at home. Send them away to be a sparring partner. Get out there. Dan Azim does that.
Yeah.
He goes out there and spars with them, and that's why this guy has got a. In his heart, he thinks, I know what I can do because I've been a sparring partner. I've been at the crap end of the stick. But most of the guys that have turned professional and they've had an excellent springboard, they've been taken care of. They've not had to do it. They've not been in a situation like that. So,
but do you think then people get found out when it comes to
they get found out when they cannot control who you're fighting, when you can't control the opponent. So this is why at that point, once you become a champion, one like Badu Jack now, he's looking at everybody else around him, and the only thing that's against him is size and youth. Yeah. He knows he's smarter and better than every single one of them, but unfortunately, time does no man favour.
Yeah, sure.
And these young guns have got to get in there and think, right, I'm on you. So Badu Jack will be smart enough to not gas himself out.
He knows how to feel his way through it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He'll step instead of running.
I mean, this is great chat because this is chat. I'm glad we're having because people understand the psychological side of it, which is more important because you know the psychological side better than anyone. Because Johnny, where he come from, where he got to, how you started, where you was scared of your own shadow walking down the street.
And I'm not afraid of that. No, that's what I'm saying. That's what.
But it's such an inspirational story.
Yeah, I see these guys. I see them fighting. I'm thinking, boys, you know what? I look at Richard Riakporhe and I think this guy's got. He's got more talent. His talent is, but he doesn't believe in his talent. Lawrence Okoli has got more confidence than he has talent. Now, eventually, these two will marry up. The confidence and talent will get together. When they get together, these guys can be dangerous fighters in front. But at the moment, they're like that. Talent, belief, confidence is like that. But when they're like that, that's why if I was a Badu Jack, if I was somebody out there, get them now. Before they know what they're doing. Yeah. And as I said, so if these boys are getting in with the likes of Badu Jack, they need to go there as the finished article to say, right, I'm on this. No second chances because you get turned over.
And what's the reason right now when we look at fighters like Badu Jack who are in their 40s and you see the fighters like today, like when we were boxing, they're 40 years of age, people worried, like when you go back to Muhammad Ali days, he was 32 years of age when he boxed George Foreman, when he knocked Foreman out. People were feared for his life. They were going, oh, he's too old. How do fighters go on longer now? You're like, what is it? What is it? The sports science behind it, the diets behind it? How do fighters last so much longer these days than what they did when we were
sports science, the diet, they don't fight as often. And the understanding that most of the damage is done in the gym. Most of the damage, I can remember seeing Michael Watson sparring with Howard Eastman before he boxed Mike McCallum. Yeah. Now, these are all names, so youngster, you've got to check it out. Mike McCallum gave, in my opinion, Michael Watson a schooling, a proper beating. And Brendan said, the damage is done there. That was the Mike McCallum fight.
Right.
A few fights later,
is that right?
The rest is history that happened with Chris Eubank. And Brendan said the damage was done the years before.
Wow.
So someone just got fired. So damage was done the years before. So when you see fighters in big fights getting hurt, getting battered, you won't see the damage there and then. Right. You'll see the damage years later. So now these fighters don't fight as often. They understand too much head sparring. If you're sparring every day and you're getting hit, you're doing 5 rounds, you're getting hit in the head 50 times a day. It's 250 times a day. So if you do it 5 days a week, let me do my math, that's 1,250 times a week you're getting hit in the head. So you do it every month. That's 4,000. You understand? So it's 5,000 times. If you're getting hit in the head 5,000 times a month, why would you not expect to be brain damaged at the end of it?
Do you know what? It's a funny question because at the press conference today, when I interviewed AJ turned around to me and said to me, you know what, Spence? He said, I said, you're in a 12-week camp, right? He said, yeah. He said, how many weeks did you do? I said, we done 8-week camps. Yeah. He said, what, was you out of shape before you went into the camp? I said, no, I always ticked over, like you. Always kept myself in shape. We had 8 weeks military training. He said, well, how would you start that out? Would you go straight into, I said, yeah, we start straight off 6 and 8 rounds sparring, then we go 10 rounds sparring, 12 rounds, a lot of sparring and all that. He said, well, that's the difference now. He said, we do 12-week camps, but it's an easier and gradual and there's a lot more technique going on and all that. He said, back in your day, it was just like you're sparring. And I said, you go in the gym. He said, I remember watching you in the early days, which inspired him in getting into boxing. He said, because he was watching him and Benn watching me on telly in this cage. That's how he ended up at Finchley ABC. Mad story anyway. But he's saying, like watching it, he said, like you'll be knocking the shit out of each other in the gym, sparring 12 rounds, 12 rounds, 12 rounds. And, you know, and yeah.
That's where
that's how the sports science has changed so much.
And that's what it's changed that because there's an understanding. Now, you've got some old school trainers that are in the coaches that are in there that some fighters don't even actually spar that many rounds, which is madness. But you've got some coaches. In our gym, we body sparred. And body sparred made you more skillful, but it wasn't, not many people like that.
Yeah.
And there was only one or two that slipped through the net that were outstanding, like your Princeton Sim Hammies and Harold Graham.
But could they get you the conditioning, Johnny? No, like, because you've done all this body sparring.
You're throwing 3 times as many shots.
But I mean, look, this is what like you're going to educate me on this one. So I'm going, well, you need to like get your head conditioned to taking shots or whatever, and you're going to probably put me in my place here and say, no, mate, it's not about that. Hence why accidents happen, etc., etc. But you know, how do you condition that side of it? Because your body obviously gets conditioned, but like taking the shots, etc.
So no wonder you're throwing 3 times as many shots because you're working to the body. There's not the fear of getting hit in the head. When you've got a fight coming up, what happens is that then you open it up to open sparring. So that time you've got for blocking, slipping, stepping back, stepping forward, all your defensive skills, then you transfer it. And that's ours was a 6-week camp. Mine was 6 weeks. So 6 weeks, I'm now open sparring. But most of the time, most of my career, I'm body sparring.
Right.
And so therefore, if I'm boxing 3 times a year, I'm actually boxing, I've been open sparring, 18 weeks in the whole year. And that's the difference. And that's the difference between yesteryear's fighters and today's fighters. They need to fight more often, get more experience, and get out there and be in someone else's backyard. To feel confident.
Well, that's exactly what you done, wasn't it? That's what you learned the trade on the road.
Best way could have happened. Yeah. You know what? Now the referee's starting to ring that bell. That last 10 seconds.
He's looking. It actually is.
The pressure's on. You know what? We did 12 rounds, 36 minutes. Nice little tear up. You know what? Get involved. Come and check us out. But trust me, we'll do this a lot more often.
Yeah. Listen, a lot more regular. And whoa, that's the first bell.
Boo.